I really wanted us to concentrate on local only races. I didn't want to deal with any of the governor, any of those races. So you put a name in there and just don't do anything because you have to have a name in there.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to stay on the ballot in Michigan. But like, let's run people for school boards, for governor, or for, I'm sorry, school boards, sheriff, all the local boards. And they were like, no, that's not a winning strategy. So we threw away maybe $100,000 for literally no seats.
Oh. What is up, everybody? My name is Kyle Matovcik. I am the host of the In Liberty and Health podcast, where we talk all things liberty, health, and wellness, and beyond. My hope is to encourage and spread the message of liberty and physical and mental well-being. I hope you enjoy all the topics we talk about with our guests. We're on all major streaming platforms, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Man, I'm doing as good as anyone can do getting buried by his 13-year-old son on leg day.
I'm not going to apologize for not being on this podcast because I got to go see Matovcik. So if that's a problem, kiss my ass. Okay? All right.
All right, everybody. This is In Liberty and Health, episode number 215. And today I can't talk apparently. Mr. Stephen Fox with me. How you doing, dude?
Good, man. How's it going?
Excellent. Very, very pleased to sit down and chat with you. As everybody knows, you run Fox and Sons Coffee, who runs the show. And you also have a great taste in music. And I think you and I kind of have a little bit of I want to say something in common when it comes to like entrepreneurialism, if that's the right word. Because, I watched my dad run a business growing up, and now, you're kind of doing the same thing with your son as well. So I guess real quick, give everybody a brief introduction just in case they don't know who you are.
Yeah, well, again, Stephen Fox, grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I've been in photography for probably close to 30 years. Do commercial photography, portraiture, that kind of stuff. Now we started a business called Fox and Sons Coffee, and we are in 23 stores. Sorry, we just added one. It started as a kind of like a side gig, almost kind of fell into it, and then it just ballooned. It's kind of almost taking over everything else I'm doing. Was a member of the LP for 2 years, growing up in the church, and now my wife and I belong to a church in West Michigan here, and other than that, I like to listen to music. Trying to learn how to play guitar, but I still suck. And super interested in politics. I've always been. So
yeah, it's a kind of all-encompassing thing, and if you gaze too long into the abyss, eventually the abyss looks back at you when it comes to politics. So that's actually really interesting that your coffee company, which was your side gig, kind of took off as much as it did, because 22 stores, it seems like most people will like start a coffee company and then like just kind of trickles along, and then maybe they eventually quit doing it. But for you, it seems to be the opposite. Like you really did really well for yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, we're not making tons of money, but we're getting noticed, we're getting out there. I mean, really what happened was, when I first started it, I started it with my kids. I wanted to start a business with them. As my website says, I have a love for coffee. I always have. Grew up drinking coffee with my dad when I would go to work with him on Saturdays. I started working with my dad on Saturdays when I was like 6. I'd go in and he'd give me $1 a day, and I would straighten shelves and ring up customers and sweep the floor and that kind of stuff. And I think it was more for my dad just to spend time with me, keep me out of my mom's hair, that kind of stuff. But it was just an incredibly special time. Just got to learn a lot from my dad. We had a lot of amazing conversations. We'd always go out to breakfast those days. But get off the spiel there. What was I saying?
Just how the coffee company's going.
Yeah. So, but what happened is when I first started doing it, I was like, okay, I'm going to advertise on some shows, and I'll just get a bunch of coffee and I'll advertise on shows and I'll just start I'll start shipping stuff out left and right. It's going to be great. And I started out with Buck Johnson. Great guy. Love him. Love his show. But I started out with him and I was really expecting after that first ad, man, I had like 96 bags sitting in boxes waiting ready to go. And I got like 3 orders. And I was like, oh crap, I'm screwed. I was like, I made this huge investment. We bought all this stuff. We got everything ready, got the website, got all the stuff going, and literally just crickets. I mean, a couple orders here, a couple orders there. And I was like, that's it. I got to go hit stores. And just went out and started hitting stores in West Michigan and got my first store, second, through, now we're in 23. And we opened in August. I got my first store in October. So whatever that math works out to be. Now we're in June and we're doing fairly well with it. I'm in 3 markets now. We're in farmers markets. So we're selling it in the farmers markets. We're selling it in the stores. People are reordering after they're buying it. We're in West Michigan here. We're in a huge vacation spot. Like everything up the coast is all vacation rental homes. Like there's everything. And so we get the Chicago people coming in and just like, they'll come to the market. Like today I sold 26 bags, 25 bags at the market in 4 hours, and they just come in and they'll buy 2 or 3 bags at a time and then they'll reorder. And so it's growing to the point where, it's more than just a side gig. It's more than just I'm going to teach my kids how to do something. It's like, well, it's actually becoming more than I was expecting it ever to be.
Yeah, dude, that's really, really cool to hear. And it seems like you did a lot of kind of footwork at first and you didn't see the return until, almost a year later now. But it seems like now you're starting to see that return. So it seems probably now, I'm guessing in your mind, it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't all initially for waste. It was kind of like the necessary sacrifice. And obviously, if you could had hindsight, it would be different. But like, it seems like you laid a good foundation down and now that's starting to kind of, repay.
Yeah. And I've done that with, photography where you're like, okay, we're going to do this kind of photography. And it's like, it's not working out. So you got to go where the money is. You got to shift and be able to move quickly and be able to get to where you need to be so you can provide for your family. I mean, it's just like, there's been times where we've been shooting, 10 weddings a year for $5-6 grand. And then there's times where it's like, we don't have any work coming in. So you just shift, you just keep moving to where the market goes to. And you just have to keep your ear to the ground and kind of know how to get that stuff. I've always been a hustler, always, been able to hustle. When I was, other than working with my dad, I had a lawnmower when I was like 10 and just mowed lawns in the neighborhood for a couple bucks. I was always working somewhere trying to make some money, doing something, and that was 16 now, or was 16. Yeah. I was working 2 jobs in high school. So it's like back when the government didn't control everything. But yeah, I was working at McDonald's and I was working for my dad, and then paper routes and whatever else. I was always hustling. So
yeah, I'm noticing a pattern there.
Yeah, it's in my blood. It's always been there. It's like, okay, I'm going to start something and rock it out for a while and then move on to something different. But the one thing that's always happened is like, I have to work for myself. I cannot work for other people. I cannot work for other people. It never works out well for me or for them. So like being employed by somebody just is not a good way for me to go.
Yeah,
So,
I've noticed that there are definitely some people like that who just can't do like a strict 9 to 5 or can't work underneath somebody. One person that comes to mind is my dad's best friend. His name's Herm, and he's kind of like the everyman. He's a constable. He does all this construction work. He could fix cars. He could build race cars. Just like the everyman, but you could never get him down just to do one thing. It was always like he was a gig worker, and I think what a lot of people miss when they talk about like unemployment numbers and stuff like that, people like you, people like Herm, who are always working, but you may not necessarily be like employed at one place. And I think that's becoming like a larger and larger sect of the economy, because when you look at I think it's like the labor force participation rate, I've looked at these numbers in fucking forever, but like I'm pretty sure it's usually in like the low 60%. So right now I'm guessing, if I had to guess, you know what, I could probably find it. Most people are just getting jobs like you, and then they just kind of go do work like that to fill their to pad their wallets. But though, like you said, as government kind of takes more and more control of your life, people begin to realize that hey, maybe this is a better way to go, rather than being meaningfully employed. Okay, yeah, February, let me see, March 2023, 62.6%. That's the workforce participation rate right now. So yeah, like I said, there you have almost probably, if unemployment's like 5%, which I'm guessing is probably right around there, then you have like 30% of people working right now, the gig economy, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, everybody I know, like everybody in my circle is all working that gig economy too. It's like, it's just who we are. It's how we function. I'll take a job here and there. I worked for a dealership for a couple years doing photography. I've done truck driving. I've done, worked in restaurants. I've bartended. I've done everything. It's like in the winter, it's slower. There's less photography work. So I'll take those gigs in the winter. Like this winter, I'll be working up at the local high school. I'll be doing, cleaning there at night. So
yeah,
it's just anything to keep me out of a normal 9 to 5. Because when I do 9 to 5s, it just like it's soul sucking for me. Yeah. Absolutely soul sucking.
Huh. That's kind of funny because like I am a very, very, very structured person. Like every day I know what I'm going to eat. I know when I'm getting up. I know when I'm going to work. I know when I'm leaving. I know when I'm going to the gym. And usually like I'm looking at my calendar, like, okay, I have a podcast with this person on this day. And then like if people cancel, it's not like the end of the world, but like I'm very, very, very regimented. So like for me, not having like the consistency there, it would drive me fucking nuts. Like I'm so analytical, especially even when it comes to like food. I already know what I'm going to eat, usually like a day, sometimes even a week out, just so that way I'm there. Like I don't have to think about it. I just got to go.
Yeah, and like my schedule is constantly changing. Like this morning it changed to where my Wednesdays now got full for the next probably 4 months doing a market and then somewhere else by us, the farmers market. So it's constantly changing. It's constantly in flux. Like tomorrow I got to go drive 6 hours to go run up north to go grab some stuff and then come back down. It's just like, that's just my schedule's always like that. So
yeah.
But it's just what I'm used to. It's what I've always done. So
yeah, just kind of one thing after another. Like I said, I'd drive myself absolutely nuts. Like I think we're kind of built for, I don't want to say burden, but the machine's not built to be content. I was talking to a guy yesterday about this on the podcast, where like whenever you're working out, you set a personal record. So like right now, my max deadlift is 530 pounds. And like, I remember when I remember the first time I did 500 and thinking, I'm not going to go any heavier. I think I'm good. And then like a week later there I am trying to pull a little bit more, and just, it never stops. As soon as you give yourself one thing, as soon as you hit one goal, then it's like, well, how much further can I push this? Because like you get that little moment and then it's gone and you just got to keep going. So yeah, I think the human machine is built for just homeostasis and being content. It's meant to keep driving. And I think that's probably what's going through your head when you're looking at different jobs and different stuff that you could do. But especially like I think with your coffee business too, as it grows and grows and grows, I have to imagine it's kind of like you didn't think that it was going to get to be what it is, but now here you are.
No, I was expecting to do 2 roasts and have it like, have like 20, 30 orders a week coming in online and not really in the stores, and just that was really all I wanted at first. And then it just became an animal and just kind of grew to a point where it was so, it's now all consuming this summer. So it'll die down again in the winter and then I'll be doing other stuff. But yeah, so but
okay.
No, I would say I almost took a job at there's a really great music store in the locally, and they offered me a gig like selling, and it sounded great and all that stuff, but it was like, I was like, well, then I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do my coffee business. And what happens if a shoot comes up? And it was like, so I called him one day. I'm like, no, can't take it, man. I love you guys. I love your store. I'll keep shopping there. I go in there all the time looking at stuff and playing with stuff, and like, but I can't do it. So, which really sucked because I really wanted to be there. Like, in fact, I kind of pursued them. I sent them my resume and I was like, hey, if you ever have anything open, let me know. And then they contact me. I'm like, nah, no, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna work, guys. Sorry. So you mentioned going to the farmers markets, and like this is a really, really cool kind of thing that happens. My wife and I went to one. It was behind a fire hall a couple weeks ago, and like I think these little markets that just pop up in random places where people bring their food trucks or whatever business they have, I always thought those events were like the coolest thing in the world, because you have like little pieces of people's cultures all throughout like your town, your locality or whatever, that'll just kind of come together and everybody just hangs out, shoots the shit. You can go, go get an old fashioned here, go get some ribs somewhere else. Like, I always thought that shit's kind of cool. So, has that kind of been your experience too? Like, it's a enjoyable vibe.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much fun it was on the other end of it. I've always been on the consumer end. There's one of the biggest farmers markets in Michigan is in Holland, where it's like a few minutes from where I live.
Nice.
And we would go there every Saturday, and I'll go and I'll get like, I'll just go down. I got my guys I buy from. I got my cauliflower guy. I got my lettuce guy. I just go down and get all the stuff from them. And now that I'm on the other end, like, all the vendors are super cool. We're all having a blast. We're all just, having goofing off all day. There's a guy across from me that just sits there and plays acoustic guitar between his guests. He's, today he was playing some Beatles stuff, and it was just like, I was kind of like, oh, I know that song. It's just one of those things, and it's a great environment. And I think the best part about it is it gives the creatives like myself a chance to reach those people and give them something that they haven't had before. But it also gives, that's part of building a community. That's part of, having something where, like, I grow lettuce, or I sell coffee, or I do this, and people are coming in and you get to actually talk with them. And, it's great. I've had some amazing conversations, and I've had some, some really great experiences. Now, I mean, of course you get the people that are just nuts, or like, they taste my coffee. And I had somebody, you've had the Boogaloo before, right? Okay. I had a lady try it, and she's like, oh my God, this is the strongest coffee I've ever had. And I was just like, really? Like, that's not strong at all. Like, you must drink water with a little bit of coffee flavoring in it. Like, I don't get that. But then you get such great people coming in afterwards, and just super excited to have you out there, and communities like that want the farmers market. So you get like all these people coming out. I did one on Thursday last week where they all came out, and I mean I sold out on a market that's brand new market in this super small town, and it's because like they want us there. So the people in the community are gonna do everything to keep us going there and keep that fresh produce and that the niche markets going, so that they have that, so they can build that legacy. And plus, I think like we with everything that we experienced in 2020, I think people realize that that's important. Like, that's the culture that we're missing. That's the neighbor that you never talk to, that you see at the market. And I think it makes a huge difference. I think those markets make a big difference in communities, and I think that they're super positive. Now, I mean, you get your insane leftists at those things that are like, we're gonna sell you vegan meat that's all soy and fillers and garbage. But like I said, there's not been one vendor that I've met that's been bad or rude or horrible. Like, everybody loves the community and cares about it. So the markets are the best thing, and I think that's the best thing for us to do. Is like, I don't know if it's I don't know what you call our community, like liberty-minded community.
What's up, everybody? We're going to take a quick break and tell you about the show's sponsors. We are brought to you by LMNT electrolytes. I've been using this stuff for years, and what I've honestly found is that if I didn't have electrolytes before some kind of cardio, and sometimes even before workouts, that my workout performance, or and definitely cardio performance, would suffer greatly. Sodium is responsible for every single movement pretty much in your entire body, and let's say you drink a lot of caffeine like I like to do, then maybe it is a good idea, like I do every single morning, put some LMNT chocolate electrolytes there in your coffee to get a little bit more sodium, potassium, and magnesium in your coffee, so that way whatever diuretic effect you get from the caffeine is pretty much diluted by the fact that you put chocolate salt in it. Also, it tastes really, really good. Get some chocolate cream or hazelnut cream or even coconut, and mix that all up. It tastes really, really good. So yeah, make sure you drop by, go to drinklmnt.com/inlibertyandhealth and pick you up some electrolytes today. All right, guys, thanks.
Like, we need to support that.
Absolutely.
So that those people, those businesses, those families can keep growing and keep prospering, and plus, like, when you're eating just total garbage all the time, like, so you're eating the good stuff, you're eating those good vegetables, you're eating the good fruit, it's not processed, it's not made by some company that sprays like chemicals on it every day so it grows faster. You're getting stuff that's like good stuff. You're not getting garbage. So that makes a big difference, I think, in your community and in your body, in your mind. I mean, I don't look like it, but we've really like took a 180 in 2020 and like dropped a bunch of weight. We're eating super healthy now. We're
That's awesome.
like all keto kind of stuff. We're just trying to keep away from any of the garbage except for pizza. I still love pizza. Sorry, I had to say that. But but I don't drink and I don't do other stuff and I don't eat garbage anymore like we used to. And I think that's made a big difference. Is just being a part of that community has also made just a huge difference in the way we approach that.
Yeah, so like all around kind of like where I live, and I'm like an hour-ish north of Pittsburgh, they're starting to do these kind of markets, or like the one over in New Kensington is called Fridays on Fifth, and they have all these food trucks line up and they block
That's
off a decent bit of New Ken. And like my wife and I haven't been able to make it out to any of them because we have something going on pretty much every single Friday. Like this in a couple of days here, we're going to be going to New York City because I got my wife's stuff to go meet Kelly Clarkson, which is her favorite artist. But hopefully,
cool.
hopefully next month we'll be able to go to that one. But like some like the food trucks I see in that menu, I'm like, man, they have like 2 or 3 dozen of these trucks that just block off one whole part of New Ken, and people just go down there and like hang out. And it's really, really cool to see too, like all these other just small businesses popping up all over the place. So like, I have a barber that I've gone to for the last probably 6 years. Holy fuck, I can't fucking believe that. I have like my barbecue place that's, one of a kind. And my brother and I, every time somebody's in town, we always take them there because it's so delicious. We have like our Mexican place. Like we have all these local businesses all over Pittsburgh here that my brother and I are like familiar with and know where we want to go whenever we want something. Oh, barbecue, let's go to Big Rigs. Let's, you need a haircut, we go to Brick and Beauty. You need Mexican, we go to Madero Cantina. We have like all these places and we know a lot of the people there. And one thing that was sad, there was a churrascaria. I'm sure you know what a churrascaria is, like the Brazilian Brazilian steakhouses where they bring the meat on the skewers.
Yeah.
There was one called Green Forest Churrascaria in Penn Hills, and in 2020, I'll never forget. It was like early April or maybe late March, and this was like right after the initial 2 weeks. They opened up and I felt horrible because these people were doing everything they could to make sure they did everything right. So they would have to like cut the meat, put it on a plate on a different table, and then have to bring it over to you. It was so ridiculous. And like,
because it just jumps from meat to the person.
Right. So the saddest part of this whole fucking deal was like, these people were the nicest people in the world. They literally hired some girl like fresh out of high school, and they paid for her car and paid for her to go through college and everything. And obviously like she worked there and shit. So, but still, like, these were those kind of people, and they had to go out of business because, their business got shut down, and they were doing everything they could to do everything right. And that fucking crushed them, dude. I was crushed when I found that out.
I think you guys had just as much of a problem with your leadership destroying businesses that we did in Michigan.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, it was brutal. We had a business here that there was an old business in this building. I mean, they sold hot dogs. It was a crappy place, but somebody bought it, took it over, and they elevated the place to like almost gourmet, if you can believe gourmet hot dogs. But they did.
It's
It
a
was
niche.
awesome. It was like it was a really cool place. They did a great job, and they opened up like I want to say it was like October of 19,
Oh.
and just when 20 hit, like just crushed them. Like they're gone now. Like the guy moved, the guy sold. Like I mean, it destroyed his whole family. He divorced, and they moved. He moved down south. He just, yeah, it just completely destroyed everything. It took everything away from him. And like, there's how many stories of that? Like, do we have from like businesses that just didn't survive? You know,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
that's like that's what I'm saying. Like those markets are so important to our community, you know, because you're helping that farmer survive like another week. You know, I mean, yeah, it might be a $2 head of lettuce or a bag of tomatoes that is a couple bucks, but that, you know, every time he sells something that adds up. And you know, yeah, the farmers make great money, but they make it for like 3 months a year. You know,
right. Well,
it's like,
and on top of that, farmers don't get to have a 9 to 5, right?
no.
They have to be attentive to their shit at all times. And that's what
Yeah.
nobody talks about. Like people freak out about what the fuck, like industrial agriculture when it comes to like animals, like slaughterhouses, stuff like that. What most
Yeah.
people don't realize is that those cows spend an overwhelming majority, I think it's like 80% of their life on pasture. What do you think the fucking farmers are doing? Do you think they're sitting there like beating the shit out of the cows or treating them like shit? No, they fucking
Yeah.
love those animals for their entire lives, and then they send them
Yeah.
out to, you know, hopefully. And what I believe this is what happens. I've seen Sean Baker talk about this a little bit, but like they get a little bullet right in their brain, right, and they're dead within like less than a half a second.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is ultimately worse? Them getting their organs eaten out by animals in the woods, or do you think a
Yeah.
little bolt to the brain and they're dead within a half a second is worse? I would venture to say, you know, being like cared for your entire life, fed on pasture, and made. And are there bad farmers? Sure, but like the overwhelming majority of farmers probably just take care of these cows. They love them like they're fucking dogs.
Yep.
And then when it's time for them to be rotated out, they probably their first couple times were like, I don't want to do this, but they understand the nature of the business, and then they move on, and so goes on the cycle of life. They're not like sitting here patiently waiting to slit a cow's throat and then kick it in the jaw. Like that's probably not what a majority of them do.
No, in fact, it's not at all. I have a guy who we buy like a quarter cow from every
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
8 months. And you know, it's not perfect. His stuff's like grass finished, but not all the way grass fed, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But he does great work. The beef is the best I've ever had. But I was talking to him about that. His family owns a couple restaurants in town. I was talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, it sucks. It sucks when you have a cow that you've like had for a couple of years. You get to know, like it knows your voice. It turns around when you say something, and then you're like, yeah, I gotta kill you. You know, he's like, it sucks, but it's the way our family survives. So yeah, I mean, they don't like that. None of them enjoy that end of stuff. Yeah, it's got to be hard. Like my wife and I have talked about getting a little bit of land and getting a couple goats or pigs or whatever. I don't know if I could kill them, you know, and for the meat, I don't think I could do that. You know, and I've shot deer before. I've gone on deer hunting and stuff. Like, you know, the couple times I've shot a deer, you know, it's like the first time I did it, it was like, oh, I just took a life. Like it really struck me. I was like, oh, I just took a life. That took me a few minutes to kind of like, okay, move on. You know, now let's go get it. Then it was excitement, you know. I was like, sweet, I got a deer, you know. But yeah, I don't think anybody, if you're like enjoying killing something, then there's something else wrong with you.
You know? Yeah, you're probably not a sane normal
wrong
person.
with you. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely something wrong with you. But yeah, I always think about these businesses and these people that just absolutely lost literally everything. You know, for what? for control over a group of people, and it's just so maddening. So
yeah, dude, it is borderline hard to dwell on, because it's like, it's easy to remember it now and think like, oh, that was no big deal, because like this is all past, and like thank God. But I did a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I called it the end of an era, because it was it was the day they officially ended the state of emergency, and like, notice nobody cared, nobody like said anything about it. It was just, oh, this ended. But like, when that was declared, that was the cover to completely throw this country into something that we didn't even recognize. And I've told this story a million times, but I'll never forget my wife and I, well, we were at Fogo de Chao, and I had a green, they have like the green and red for like if you want them to keep bringing you food or not. And I took a picture of the green card and I sent it to my brother and my dad, and I said, oh, look, we're at Fogo de Chao. And then that's when we got the text saying we're in a state of emergency. And then like not even 2 weeks later, my wife is driving around with a slip that says, show this to the police if you get pulled over for going to work. I mean, that I was like,
see, it was not that bad in Michigan. It was not that bad in Michigan.
Yeah.
It was, I was driving. I delivered wine for a distributor, and we had less places because the bars weren't open.
Right.
But like it went from like a store would get like 2 or 3 cases of wine to like a store would get like 30 cases of wine a week. I mean, like, it was crazy how much people were drinking when that was going on. I mean, they were just, we sold more booze in like that 6 months where everything was kind of shut down than any other time. Like, it was just absolutely out of this world how much we were going through. I mean, we bought a bigger van because my deliveries were so like, it was like 60, 80 cases, and it'd be like 3 stops.
Holy fuck. Jesus.
Yeah.
This is such a fascinating conversation. And this is why I get frustrated when people say the treatment is the thing solely responsible for an increase in death over the last couple of years.
No.
You have no idea the lasting, we won't know the consequences of what even just 6 months of harsh lockdowns did for years and years and years to come. Like, we have like, just that alone, I didn't even know that. You know, I thought you were going to say, oh, we were delivering less bottles, but like the fact that you were delivering exponentially more, just think about that. And like, alcohol is the one thing that we know is like a legitimate fucking poison to people.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like you're not going
to
to die tomorrow, but there are no upsides to alcohol other than like, we enjoy it because it's part of, social stuff. I still drink whiskey and shit, but like, if you're drinking every day, that is horrible for you. That is one of the only things that I will say, like, that shit is bad for you. I mean, there's no upside other than just you're enjoying yourself. That's really all that alcohol is for.
Yeah. And those people in how many of those people just can't stop after 6 months? 6 months, you're getting extra money. You're going out, you're buying cases of wine instead of bottles. And you're just drinking and drinking and drinking. It's like when it first started, one of the things that happened too was one of our reps, she disappeared, and we're like, what's going on? Well, one of her really close friends, when everything was first hitting, killed himself because he was like, oh, we're all gonna die. He literally killed himself because of that.
Wow.
How many other people did that? It's just what that did, like the destruction that did. Yeah, you're right. We're not going to see that destruction for another probably 5 or 6 years, if not more. Like the real destruction, like the livers that are just gone. The people that will never recover, will never recoup, like their losses of businesses, of families, of loved ones. Grandma's sitting behind curtains, that you can't go see because, they're dying alone in the hospital. It's like, it's just, it was probably one of the most horrid and just, I don't even have words for it. It was just god awful, like what it did to people. Yeah.
It's Yeah, it really is insane to think about that. You literally had people standing outside of retirement homes to go, basically talk to their loved ones through a window
Yeah.
as, they take some of their last breaths. I mean, that shit is just unforgivable. And like you said,
Yeah,
how many people
it
just
is.
were fucking zeroed out? Like they were just hanging on. And then next thing you know, bam, you can't go to work anymore. And this kind of goes back to the thing I was saying earlier, where like the machine's not built for content. You can't tell a guy who's used to fucking working 100 hours a week to just go sit at home and wait this one out. Like that does not compute.
No.
Yeah, you can't tell
No,
people.
it doesn't work.
You can't tell people who want to fucking rock and roll every day that you just gotta hang on for a little bit. Like I said, does not compute. You will zero those fucking people out, and they will have a fucking problem.
Yeah,
some people aren't built to just sit still.
I'll admit, like the first 2 weeks, like I was like, oh crap, what's going on? Like I get home from work and throw all my clothes in the laundry, immediately and take a shower. And it's like the first like 2 days I did that. And then after about 10 days of all that, I was like, yeah, this is bullshit. But I mean, like my wife and I were really sick. I think we had it. We never got tested, but we had it like right when it first was going down. We were both really, really sick. I had a huge, like, big respiratory thing, and so did my wife. She was down for almost 3 weeks. I think I was down for about 10 days, but I didn't take a day off work. Like I was still working that whole time. I was like, I don't stop when I'm sick, But it was when you're saying going back to the driving thing, like I was driving all over the state, and it was great because nobody was on the road. Like literally nobody was on the road. I was making it from my house, from our warehouse to Detroit was about 2.5 hours. I was making it in 2 hours. Like cops wouldn't even, they would just wave at me as I was doing like 100 miles an hour past them. Like they didn't care. They weren't pulling me over, nobody was pulling anybody over.
You ain't gonna hurt nobody.
But yeah, literally nobody. It was like some trucks and then me in my little van, like just flying down the road. Nobody was on there. It was great for traffic. Like I was making it to the other side of the state and back in like a couple hours each way. It was awesome. Like that was the only good upside to it. It was like the traffic died.
Yeah. So kind of pivoting on there was something that I think you and I both probably came to a similar place to. I was pretty involved in the Libertarian Party, as I know you once were, because you sent me a interesting email to say to say.
Oh God, least. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Now I did calling for the Mises Caucus in leading up to the convention for 2022, I believe, and all the Mises Caucus people got elected, and then we ran a Senate or a guy for Senate who basically was no different than Dr. Oz or Fetterman in all their positions. And as much as people want to like talk shit about Fetterman, you're
he still beat Oz.
Yeah,
he still beat Oz.
The thing is that him and Oz agree on pretty much everything. I mean, there is no discernible difference. They're Zionists. They're China hawks. They both believe in
speak better, but that's about it.
Yeah, they're both they're both for transing the kids. They're both gun grabbers. And the only difference with our Senate candidate was that he probably wasn't for trans kids, and he probably wasn't a gun grabber. Other than that, pretty much lines up with the rest of them. And then you come to find out some inner workings of the party, and you figure out that it kind of became a glorified swingers club. And at that point, I'm like, all right, well, I no longer wish to be a part of this, because all you guys had to do for like some of the stuff that you're running, give me a call. I'll set you straight on the issues. I know about the foreign policy stuff, and we could talk about that. But like, if we're going to run a dude who's a China hawk and just repeating BoomerCon talking points, and we took over the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania just so that way everybody could stick their dick into somebody else, and wear the golden star around their penis or whatever. I no longer have an interest, and I have plenty of better things to do with my time, like record this podcast, like spend time with my wife, who I don't get to spend a lot of time with because we work, I don't want to say different hours, but we both work a lot. We have a lot going on. There are much better things to do with my time than go to meetings for a couple hours on a Saturday, which is the only day of the week that my wife and I mutually have off.
Yeah. No, I get that. No, yeah, for me it was I was heavily involved in the LP. In the Michigan LP, I was on the board. So going back, a very, very great podcaster who I dearly, really loved and enjoyed. His name was Doc Thompson. He was on Glenn Beck's network. He would call himself libertarian, but he kind of was, kind of wasn't. You know, he was in that somewhere in between there. He got hit by a train and died.
Oh,
like
geez.
crazy story. I still think Glenn Beck killed him, but but
no, was he getting asked the JQ or something?
Yeah, he got hit by a train and died, and so I was looking for a new podcast, and I found Dave Smith, and I was like, "Ooh, a real libertarian," you know. Sorry, but listening to Dave Smith and listening to who's the other guy, Tom Woods, and their big push at that time was pulling people into the Mises Caucus to take over the party, and I was like, after a couple months of it, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll do it, I'll join. And Heist called me. I'm driving. He called me. I had to pull over. We talked for a while, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not joining." And then I was like, "Okay, I'll finally join." And so I ended up joining. I got elected to the board. Joined the Mises Caucus. Joined the LP. Got elected to the board. Took over the West Michigan Party as the chair of that. Heavily involved. I was running a bunch of stuff. Couple things happen. One, the LP, especially the Mises Caucus, fought me on it was a bill that was going through our Michigan House that would have prevented businesses from forcing people to take a certain thing, and they weren't allowing. You know, we wanted to stop that by using the state to stop businesses from being able to say you have to do this, and they said no, you can't do that. We're not going to back that, because that's using government to tell businesses what to do. And I was floored, absolutely floored, and I was told and threatened that if I went for that and pushed that the Libertarian Party back that I would be removed. And I was like, let's go. I love challenge. Let's go. and so I fought him, and I fought him, and I fought him, and then got kicked out of the Mises Caucus for fighting them. And then the only people I had to work with were the people on the left side of the Libertarian Party, who I have zero alignment with any of those people, but they were the only people, and they were actually nice, and they would listen, and they would say, yeah, I disagree with you, but I think we need to do this, so let's go for it. Wow. And so it just, and then the guy that was running the Michigan Mises Caucus is just narcissist and insane. So like it got bad. Like it got really bad. I'll tell you off air, like something that happened. So it got super bad. I got booted out of meetings. I got shit talked about me. One of the best things that happened was towards the end of me, when I was leaving the LP, I tweeted on my old Twitter account that got nuked for saying that you should bitch slap a certain government official. So and then Mark Claire retweeted that, and this started this whole controversy, and that's when he was leaving the Lions of Liberty. But it was like he did this whole podcast about like that tweet, and about how people from the LP were just losing their mind over this tweet that was really like, all it said was Dave Smith and Tom Woods were pulling me into the LP, and Pete Quinones is pulling me out of the LP. You know, and that's all the tweet said. And I was getting like, Jack Lloyd was like ripping on me and saying all kinds of weird stuff. And
that's a real autistic Spurg.
Yeah. Well, and I sent him a message. I'm like, hey man, if you want to talk about what happened, I'd love to talk to you. And the response back I got was, go fuck yourself. And it was like, okay, that's how people, that's how they are. And so just because of all that stuff, I'm like, you know, I don't think, and then the big part about it was, I really wanted us to concentrate on local only races. I didn't want to deal with any of the governor, any of those races. So you put a name in there and just don't do anything, because you have to have a name in there if you want to stay on the ballot in Michigan. but like let's run people for school boards, for governor, or for, I'm sorry, school board, sheriff, all the local boards. And they were like, no, that's not a winning strategy. So we threw away maybe $100,000 for literally no seats.
Holy
My
fuck.
wife ran, and she got the most. I think she got the most votes, and she did no campaigning. But she ran for a state senate seat. But yeah, it was crazy. Like, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't deal with these people anymore. They're a bunch of autistic fucks, and I can't handle this.
That's literally like the exact opposite of what the Mises Caucus kind of preaches, though. That's kind of funny because it's supposed to be local.
100% opposite.
Yeah,
100%
that's
opposite.
unreal. And especially like to have Jack Lloyd, and I've stuck up for Pete to Jack Lloyd, and that's kind of like where me and Pete officially like started talking. It's just funny because like I think people have this impression of Pete that he's some kind of like asshole. And yeah, he definitely projects that way on Twitter. But like if you talk to Pete, he's sincerely one of the nicest dudes I know. Like sincerely just one of the nicest people who's done absolutely nothing but wish me well. So like I have
and
no
you
hard
guys
feelings.
fundamentally disagree on a lot of stuff. But he still is like, hey, you're a human being, and I'm gonna, it's cool. You're good.
But yeah, he like
And
messaged me about diet stuff, and he knows that I got his back. I know he's got my back, and that's what fucking matters.
And that's the problem, is that the people like the autistics in the LP can't do that. They can't go, it's cool, we disagree. It's totally cool. We're on the same team for the most part. They can't do that. They have to always be right. One of the things I would joke about was the fact that they would argue if like mowing somebody's lawn was a violation of the NAP. Like, that was a joke I made. I saw that same tweet about a month ago, and I swear I should have screenshot the damn thing. But somebody was like, "Is it against the NAP to if your neighbor mows your lawn?" And I was, I was just like, "Holy shit!" It came true. Somebody actually said it, and I was hoping it was a joke, but I wasn't sure if it was a joke. But yeah, I mean, the LP or the Mises, they preach like individualism and all stuff, but they wouldn't allow me to be an individual standing up for what I thought was right.
All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break from the show to tell you about the show's sponsor. We are now brought to you by Fox & Sons Coffees. You can see right here, I got the Den Blend Dark. Really enjoy that. I've been drinking a lot of their Brazil Honey Prep right here. As you can hear, there's not a lot of beans left in it because I've been drinking it quite a bit. Just to tell you a little bit about Fox & Sons, why I support them and why you should too, is that Stephen had started the company up in Michigan to help teach his son about entrepreneurship. I'm all about that, and I do firmly believe that in order to spread liberty in our lifetimes, we have to support those who support similar values as us. And Stephen does support all the same libertarian values that I bring and talk about on the show a lot. So go to foxandsons.com, use code Kyle at checkout to get 15% off of orders $25 or more, and there's always free shipping whenever you place an order that is more than $37.99. Find their coffee absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure you will too. So one more time, go to foxandsons.com, use code Kyle at checkout to get yourself a little discount. Let them know I sent you, and support the coffee that supports you. All right, guys, thanks. Back to the show.
Like, they came after me hard for standing up what I thought was right.
Yeah.
And you can't use the state to like fight the state. It's asinine. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's ridiculous. And we can't run anybody local. We have to only run these major races that we'll never ever win, that we might get 3% for. If I had to pick an ideology that I'd be closest to, I mean, it probably would still be the LP, but I cannot work. I just can't work with those people. And it sucks because like Smith and Ron Paul and Spike, those guys are awesome, and I think they get it, and they can argue those points, but still actually, and the guys from Lions Liberty, McWilliams and Odermatt, like, they're great at both sides of the issue. They can understand the other side. They can do it without being an autistic fuck. But 99% of the people that are in that party can't do that. it's impossible for them to do that.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Pete kind of woke me up to is looking at governance is more of a tool. And I kind of use this saying all the time, but it's essentially like fire, right? You can use it to heat your home, or you can use it to burn your house down. You can use it to burn your neighbor's house down. Well, I mean, at this point, we probably should accept that we're not going to have Ancapistan anytime soon. So wouldn't it be preferable that we would use the state to make sure that a certain treatment doesn't get mandated versus it getting mandated? If you have to pick the lesser of two evils here, then if you know the option is not no mandates versus mandates, I'd say no mandates is probably the lesser of two evils. And in that situation, why is anybody going to fight you and say that this is, you know, an invalid use of the state? Like, it's not perfectly, yeah, it's not perfect libertarianism, but who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, we're not living in a libertarian world. I'm sorry, we're not there. We'll never be there if we keep fighting this way. And yeah, it was incredibly frustrating and very hurtful. And it was like, you know, because my wife and I, we gave a lot to the party. Like we really did for a couple of years. Like we were super involved. You know, she was running the conventions, I was doing other stuff, and like we kicked a lot of ass and did a lot of stuff, but like literally nothing meant anything. You know, you'd put on a rally for like gun rights and 6 people would show up. Like, okay, you know, there's nothing. I mean, I can't. People don't care, you know. And the other thing I found funny was most of the people that in the Michigan OP, a lot of them like all work government jobs. So it's like
that's pretty ironic.
yeah, like one of the guys that was running for something was like retired post office guy, and you know, it's just so funny. It's like you guys all work for the government, you know, school teachers and stuff, and it's like, you know, how am I supposed to believe you or think you're not a Fed when you work for the Feds?
Yeah, that's actually very, very ironic. It's kind of funny because like you mentioning that, it almost seems like when you set up these political events, you're already doomed to fail, like right off the go. But I'll tell you what, I've hosted 2 breast cancer charities and raised thousands to give to people who legitimately needed the money. I've told the story a couple times, but like Rock for Trish 2, which was the second one I did. I just didn't do one the following year. I literally gave someone I went to high school with and graduated with, I gave his mom, I think it was almost $3,000, and she was able to take care of like a lot of her cancer treatments and like co-pays for an entire year. I mean, that shit, fuck any of the political stuff.
Matters.
Yeah, that legitimately could have potentially saved somebody's life. And like, not to say that nothing political matters, but like, I don't know, man. If I can throw, you know, call up a couple of my buddies and we all bring some alcohol and our PA and have a good time, and, you know, 300 people show up and we have a good time, you don't get that same ROI on a fucking political event.
No. And like, so even going back to what we were talking about earlier, like, you know, you're doing that for the community, you're doing that for people's lives, you're doing the, you know, the farmers markets, you know, like you're supporting people that are small businesses that are kind of out of the matrix,
right?
You know, they're not working for like some of the big, you know, not big pharma, I'm trying to think like big ag, you know, they're not working for those guys. I can't think of any of those names right now.
Monsanto, Bayer,
You're not working for any of those companies. You're working for like, you know, you're supporting, you know, Bob and Gertrude that have 40 acres down the street and like grow killer radishes, you know, and that are better for you than a potato if you bake it right. So those are the, you know, you're not only doing stuff better for you and your body and your system, but you're doing stuff better for the community, you know, and you're going to do better going to your local school board meeting and, you know, confronting people that are doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, you know, or pushing back, or, you know, posting about it, talking about it, doing like you can do like a 30-second video on, you know, a local page saying, hey, this is what they're doing in the school now, we got to stop this. You're doing more doing that than the LP has ever accomplished. You just are, you know, and I think that's where it comes down to. It's like we're either going to make these changes in our lives and our family and our churches and in our communities by people that just give a shit, you know, or we're not. And again, I have not seen the LP do jack shit for like that, but I've seen, you know, you've done your cancer stuff. You know, you know, we've done stuff like charity stuff for people before. Just we don't even talk about it. We just, you know, just do it and be quiet and send $500 here, $1,000 there, $50. My wife doesn't even know sometimes I give out stuff like that. She has no clue. You know, it's just, don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. You know, it's scriptural. So sorry if you know. You know, it's just I think we really, really need to focus as a community. You know, whether it's the post-libertarians or whatever we call ourselves, we really need to focus on that rather than like, what's the LP doing? What's the LP not doing? What's the Republican Party doing? What's Trump doing? What's, you know, I mean, yeah, it pisses you off and you see videos online of like, you know, for the 16th time, like a white chick getting beat up by like 16 other people. You know, it's super frustrating and you get mad but like in reposting that and making a big comment about how everybody's this and everybody's that doesn't solve a damn thing.
Right.
You know, it just doesn't solve a thing. Going in your community, going into your school, going into your, you know, doing those things and going in there and helping, that's where we make the changes. And I'm sorry, I sound like a freaking bleeding heart now, but I think that's how we make our changes in our own lives and in the lives of others.
Yeah, dude, I agree completely. And it's kind of cool. You know this from having your own business, but you know, also like I worked for my dad for probably I'd say probably about a year total. And
Okay.
the one thing that's insane to me, and he owns an auto shop and he's the third generation business owner. And I mean, it wasn't like he got it from his dad. Like, you know, there was my great grandfather who had one, and then my grandfather had one, and then, you know, there was no Matovcik auto, and then my dad opened it up. There's something just mind boggling about standing in front of somebody and them telling you, I remember watching your grandfather grow up, and I said there had to be another one. And then like these people follow you all throughout your life and just see, you know, me grow up. They watch my dad grow up and like seeing the cars that like my grandfather worked on. My grandfather died when I was 15, but like just to think like that's like a community right there, is just knowing that there's hundreds of people who do this. Oh, Glenny, you're Glenny's kid. Like just that kind of shit. Just, it's so weird to think about, but that's kind of like how I feel like things used to be. And I think if we get more involved in these, you know, farmers markets and kind of just talking to local people who are in our communities, that's kind of something that we can aspire towards. And I think it will lead to more freedom and a better outcome, because we're not going to get, you know, a Dave Smith or, you know, even another Ron Paul possibly into Congress, into the Senate, or especially not into the presidency. But you can go support your local farmers and your local barber, your local bar, people like that who, you know, who cares what their politics are? They're in your community and they're a good person and they just want to feed their families the same way as you do. You can support those people, and that increases the freedom in your vicinity because you're no longer dependent on things outside of it.
Well, one of the things Pete talks about a lot, I guess this is like the We Love Pete show, but the one thing Pete talks about a ton that really resonates with me, and like I could never do it. Maybe that's the problem, is I feel like I can never do it. But like somebody running for sheriff, like a sheriff has more power than anybody else in the community.
Absolutely.
You know, like they have the most power. So like if somebody really wants to make a change, run for that sheriff's office. Like there was a guy in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that during the COVID mandates, he's like, no, we're not doing a thing. We're not changing anything. We're not stopping anything.
All cops are bastards though, Steven.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another story I have for you, but but all cops are bastards, you know. But there's one guy who's standing up that's saying we will not do this. And that was one of the things that pushed me away from the anarchists. Was like the we'd be in the middle of a convention, somebody would be like, fuck the police, and it's like, seriously, just stop, like just grow up and stop. Or you get the anarchists who are like, you know, I hate all cops. I hate all cops. It's like, you know, like one of my closest friends is a cop, and I worry about him. Like, I got a message on my phone the other day from him. He's like, "Hey, I'm going into a high school. Reports of a gun. Pray for me."
Mhm.
You know, it's like that's chilling. Like, I don't know if I'll see my friend again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, luckily there was no gun.
They're all,
but they're bastards. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all bastards.
I've gone to bat for, or with people over this shit all the time, because it's like, you realize that, okay, so like the probably most famous story was that cop in New Jersey with Ian Smith, where the cop said, "You are all directly in violation of federal laws and lockdowns right now. With that being said, have a nice day," and walks away.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell me that dude's an asshole? I'm sorry. I would
Yeah.
much rather be on that dude's side than the fucking anarchist than Ace-archist tweaking out and quote tweeting people, right? I'm sorry. The sheriff that chose not to enforce the fucking lockdowns is way more my friend than any anarchist who's completely checks off every single fucking arbitrary libertarian principle that there is. So guess what? No, I don't think all cops are bastards. I think they're not libertarians, and they sincerely believe, most of them sincerely believe, that they're serving, protecting, because that's what they were told from the time that they were kids. They're not libertarians. I cannot stand this line of thinking.
I mean, if I was a cop, the first person that made me run, I'd shoot. Like, I'd shoot him. Like, you're making me run. No, you're not making me run. Shoot. Boom. Done. You're done. I'm not chasing you. You're dead. You know, like, like I would, but like, you know, I've been the asshole in the car too, where I'm like screaming at a cop that pulled me over for a seatbelt ticket. It's like, it's bullshit. Yeah, it's bullshit. Yeah, he's just fundraising. Yeah, I can't stand this fact that I just got pulled over for this. But I knew the law and I didn't have a seatbelt on. Right. It was my fault. It's still my fault. Yeah, and yeah, it sucks when you get pulled over and you got a $250 fine for a stupid ticket of like going 5 over. Like, that's what they are in Michigan now, at least. That blows. But that's what the community sets. The community sets that, you know, like, I don't like it, not happy about it, but it sets it. But, you know, these guys that are bitching about all cops are bastards and stuff like that, you know, as soon as their business gets burned down, who are they going to call? You know, they're going to call the fire department and the cops. You know, as soon as their wife gets run over by somebody or raped, for heaven forbid, you know, who are they going to call? They're not going to go, "I'll be the vigilante." They're going to be crying at the cop's shoulder. You know, you need to stop this. You need, but yet all cops are bastards. And like, I get it. I understand why, and I've gone through the phase, and I've been mad at cops before, but it changes. Like, it changes your mind when you have a very close friend. You know, the guy stood up at my wedding. I stood up at his wedding. We've been friends for 30 years. You know, It's like, you know, his wife died of cancer a couple years ago. It sucked, but he's not a bastard, man. The guy's a good man. The guy's let people go for tickets that he should have probably arrested people. Like, and he's let people go. He's like, you know, I'm just not in the mood to deal with this today. Just stop doing stuff stupid. Yeah, he's probably the most level-headed cop I've ever known.
Yeah.
And but then you have, and that's what totally will push me away from the whole anarchist idea, or that it just will never work. Like, it's impossible. I mean, anarchy just, you can't have a society function with anarchy. I'll never believe in that. So. Yeah,
it really is kind of like an ideal, and you know, I would still consider myself like an anarchist at heart, but it's like, when, where, how, when's that going to happen? It's kind of like pure communism, right? It's an ideal. You could strive towards it, but chances are you're probably never going to see it. But one thing that kind of kept popping in my mind when we were talking about like the farmers market stuff, this is kind of like a form of anarchy, because this is just where people voluntarily come together to do trade without government or anything like that. It's a peaceful place. And then people, you know, they take care of shit. I'm sure if, you know, you saw somebody walk right in the middle of where the whole market is and they start dropping stuff or taking a shit right in front of where all the kids are, people would probably be pissed off and probably tell them, we're going to physically remove you. Oh my God.
Yeah,
or they would call the cops.
I'd physically remove somebody in a heartbeat. I have no problem with that. You know, it's like, I carry a 38 or 380. You know, like if I have to carry myself, I will. But yeah, like you totally. I can see that. I can kind of see that end of it, and I think it can work. Like the anarchism thing can work if you have a group of people that all agree, and then you don't have anybody that's selfish.
Right.
But the last time I checked, man, there's very few people that are selfish.
Well, I threw out a tweet about someone was talking about immigration, and the way that I kind of see this is that cultural values do matter, right? Like you have to have some kind of shared vision, right? And this is kind of why I like Vivek Ramaswamy, is because he kind of has this idea of like nationalism, and like that gets such a dirty like tinge to it. But really, I think it just means having pride in something like greater than yourself, right? So I like see this whole idea of like it's, I don't want to say it's replacing religion, but like kind of giving people something to aspire to that isn't just, you know, whatever worldly pleasure is right now, right? You're looking for something bigger. I like that kind of aspect of wanting to put something above you. So like when you have a, you know, a group of people who don't share your values moving into a community that doesn't share your values, it's going to be a problem. But though, if they have like economic output, well, now that's not quite as much of a factor, but it's still a factor and probably not good. Now, if you have a community that has no economic output and no shared values, there's absolutely going to be chaos because nothing means anything.
Well, you go into any inner city, you're going to see that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's 100% chaos. You know, I was thinking about this a while back, but when I'm old, I was born in 72. In 76, I remember the big like 200-year celebration or whatever. Yeah, you know, country around for 200 years. The bicentennial, I think it was called. There were like sashes everywhere across the city, like everywhere. Like the 4th of July was a huge thing, and like I just remember being so proud of like country. You know, it was like feeling. You know, I guess that was the what's the word I want to look for? You know, growing up in the 80s, like you had that pride, you know, you had, you know, like I remember, I distinctly remember the shift from where people were proud of being an American and proud of growing up here to where it was like, oh, this is the worst country ever. You know, we killed everybody, so everything's our problem. We're everybody's fault. Like, you know, like I remember that shift, like from the 80s to the 90s, where that happened. But like people were proud to be Americans. I mean, I was 4, but it was an awesome thing. It was a big celebration. You know, everywhere went nuts, and there was pride there. And I think when you had that, people were more likely to be nicer to each other. You know, there wasn't this like, you know, there wasn't people fighting in the streets. There wasn't like people pushing other people downstairs in New York. You know, there wasn't any of that stuff, you know, in front of trains. That stuff didn't happen. I mean, it did, but it wasn't nearly what it is now. Right. But I think part of it's because of the values that we had of like, you know, the pride and the values and the mutual respect for your neighbor. Now everybody just hates everybody else. Yeah. In fact, I used to say it was like I hate everybody. It was like it wasn't true, but it was something to say. But you know, it can get to the point where you do end up hating everybody, and I think that's when all you have is hate in your heart and all you have is malice for other people and no pride in where you are, who you grew up in, your community, your family. That shows in everything else, and that becomes who you are. And then you have these people that just are just downright evil because of it.
Yeah.
So,
dude, it's a bad place to be, and that's why someone came at me the other day for posting pictures. They said, "Oh, well, you're like thirst trapping or something like that." But like, I don't know. I'm sure you've probably felt this too when you see people post like couples pictures. There's been a part of me that's like, I just want to tell people quit being so fucking PDA. But then like, it took me a minute or two. I'm like, you know what? No, these people are legitimately happy together and they want to share this with everybody because they think this means something to them. Like, I really, really try now, especially on Twitter, to like take a second or two and try to encourage people to post more like good stuff rather than just like bad stuff. Like I do not. I've started blocking Ian Miles Chong, Elijah Schaefer, all the engagement brokers who just constantly feed you shit that it's like. Sometimes seeing the shit makes me like physically uncomfortable. Like that video.
It's almost hate porn.
Oh yeah, it is. There was that blonde girl who's screaming, a hard R, like in front of all these people in the city after she just got punched in the mouth. Like that legitimately made me uncomfortable to watch. I'm like, this is fucking horrible. Why are people watching this? I can't share this to people because there's nothing good. It's literally just like you said, hate porn. You get this dopamine because you're seeing somebody suffer, and then like you could have a comment about it, it's gonna get a bunch of likes. Like, no, I don't want to share that shit anymore. I want to give people information that's gonna help them. I want people to be happier after they see the stuff that I say, or at least more well informed. I don't want to make people miserable every single time they look at my Twitter.
I got that way when like all the videos were coming out earlier this year of like. You'd see like a white kid in school just getting the shit beat out of him by black kids. I got to the point where I was like, and I was sharing it, and I was like, and I just got to the point where I was like, I cannot share that crap anymore. I have to, and I fight myself. Like I get caught up in it. You look and you're watching something, like share, and like, nope, not going to share that. Not going to share that. And like that's part of the reason I took my Facebook down a couple years ago was. Like all I was doing was just like just ragging on everything, and it was like people that stopped talking to me, it was because I was becoming an asshole with it. So like I had to stop, and like Twitter was fun at first when it was like, oh, let me just be an anonymous asshole on Twitter, and you get to the point where you're like, I have to stop sharing this stuff. I have to share positive stuff.
Right.
Like post pictures of you and your wife. That's awesome, man. I love posting pictures of my wife. My wife's beautiful. She's awesome. I love her. Like she's the absolute best thing in my life. Mm-hmm. Like there is nothing better than my wife for me. The greatest thing I have is her company. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of that. Like I'm absolutely proud of that. And so if there's pictures of us, like I'll take it and I'll post it. And if you don't like it, stop following me. I'll block you. I don't really give a crap, And like, so if people have a problem with you posting those kind of pictures, block them, dump them. Who cares? Like they're just miserable fucks, and they want everybody to be as miserable as they are. That's all it comes down to.
The insta blocks are definitely people who rip on my wife. Just because, like, first of all, she isn't responsible for what I say. I'm responsible for what I say, and like, she more than likely agrees with me on all this stuff. But what's funny is like she's apolitical. She's not worried about all the political shit. So don't bring her into my business. If you're gonna say dumb shit about my wife, first of all, my wife is fucking stunning. But like, I'll just fucking block you. I'm not dealing with that. Yep. And that's why I'll tweet out occasionally. I'll say like something. The other day I tweeted about I thought I was gonna have like a shitty gym session, but then I hit all new records. And then always after something like that, I'll post W's and post them often, just because I want people to think like, oh, next time I have a good gym session, next time I cook something that was good, next time I had a really nice dinner with my wife, next time, whatever, share it. Put that out there so that way people feel more encouraged to share something positive rather than you watching somebody get kicked the shit out of. Like, I'd much rather see that. And it's not quite like as engaging when you see something that doesn't just outrage you, but like there's something a lot better about being in the mind space of like seeing somebody happy than just seeing miserable shit constantly. I've really tried to avoid sharing shit like that.
There's way too much misery in the world, man. Absolutely. There's just way too much misery. And you could encourage somebody too. It's like, hey, you kind of, you get some things together. You could have a, gorgeous wife too. Like it could be, for all the incels in the LP, that could be great. So that could be encouraging to those poor guys. But it's like I think that is something that encouraging people. Like one of the things, and I hate even talking about stuff like this sometimes, but one of the things if I see somebody post something that's kind of hard, I'm like, I'll send them a private message. I'm like, hey man, I'm praying for you. Mm-hmm. And it might not be like this. I think people kind of expect this big long like I'm going to pray for 4 hours. And it's like, no, man. It's like, hey, Kyle's having a rough day. God, just help him out, send him some love, it can be something that simple, or it's like, I tell people too, it's like, if I'm going to do that, it's like, I'm going to do that today. And if I remember tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, but I'm not guaranteeing anything. So, and I'll say that, it's like, I think that's opened the doors for me to be able to talk with people that I don't think it would ever have talked to me otherwise. There's people that I talk to behind the scenes that I don't think would ever really talk to me unless I was, doing something. And I'm not doing it for that reason, but it's like, it's kind of cool. Like, there's some people that I know that I text back and forth with that I'm kind of shocked that I do. It's like, so, but it's because, you reach out and do those things. And it's like, I really think that the better way to go for your mindset, for my mindset, for our community, is really just doing those encouraging things. Like, like, you had a great set. If I saw it on Twitter, I'd be like, awesome, man. That's great. I'm so happy for you. Do it again tomorrow. I don't see that stuff a lot. I'm on Twitter like a second here and a second there. I don't spend like hours on Twitter. I think like some people do, but like, I think that's part of what we should be doing and how we should be acting towards each other, or like, if somebody has a bummer of a day, it's like, hey man, thinking about you. Is there anything I can do to help you out? Do you need something? Or like, there's times like, you send a bag of coffee to those people. And it's like, don't say anything, just throw a bag in the mail. It's like, here's a bag of coffee, enjoy it. You just do that kind of stuff. And that's part of what I love that I get to do, is like, I get to do that, and people might not know where it came from, because I'm like, hey man, do you have this person's address? I want to send them something. It's like, you get to do that. It's kind of fun. That's part of the fun of owning your own business, or like, if if you guys are doing, I know somebody else is doing a fundraiser for somebody's cancer stuff, and it's like, I get to be a part of that. I'm behind the scenes part of it, but donate a couple $100 and be a part of it. Through the business, it's great. It's a write-off, but it's also helping them out. If we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. So it's like, we just gotta act like men, man. That's what we're called to do. We're supposed to be men. We're supposed to act like men. It sucks sometimes. It's not fun all the time, and being responsible sometimes is not the best part of life, but it's also what we're supposed to be and who we're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a perfect place to wrap it up, man. I really, really enjoyed this conversation, so we'll definitely have to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Go ahead, throw all your plugs in, anything cool you got going on, and where everybody can find you and support you.
Fox and Son Coffee, Fox FOXNSONS.com. Order, I forgot what your code is.
Kyle, just KYL.
Kyle, code for your discount on that. Let's see what else. I'm periodically on some shows, just kind of, I'm B Team Steve on Justin's show, his morning show, because they always call me when nobody else shows up. So B Team Steve on there. But that's about it, man. That's foxandsons.com. I do photography, so if you have anything that you need photographed, you can send it to me. We can talk, and I'll photograph it here and send it back to you. So that's what I do. Man.
Nice. All right. Well, like I said, I really, really appreciate it. Everyone, make sure you go to Fox. Yeah, of course. Make sure you go to foxandsons.com. Check out all the links in the description below, as that will be there as well. And until next time, everybody, thanks for listening and take care.